overall, two pretty big news. Tesla joins some of the large kind of mega cap companies to ca- um, introduce a stock split recently. So it joins the likes of Google and Amazon, being one of the mega cap companies, over trillion, completing a stock split or planning to in the near future. So it will likely occur a more tentative date during the earnings report where the board meets, and that should occur on April 20th. So, coming up pretty soon in regards to Tesla itself. GME, I'm not too sure, but I think that will occur whenever their board meets, probably at their next shareholder meeting. But yeah, we did have a little bit of a pullback in the latter half of the week, as we sort of anticipated, calling a bit of a top around the 460 level. And we since pulled back a little bit. So we'll discuss our thoughts on that, and I'll kind of cover my thoughts on some of the big news like Tesla stock split and the delivery numbers as well a little bit later on. So I'll just pass it on to DJ, who will go over his usual SPY analysis. Just before that, just to cover earnings, we have a few earnings this week. So we're kind of moving out of earnings season for now. So just a few Tilray on Wednesday pre-market, Levi's in the sort of consumer retail goods on Wednesday after hours, and then some of these SaaS companies like Sprinkler also reporting Wednesday, WD-40 reporting Thursday after hours, Constellation Brands in the food space reporting Thursday pre-market. So not too many. Levi's will likely be the biggest one. Levi's usually has historically had good earnings, so we'll keep a watch on that one. But not too many earnings this week to watch. Mainly Levi's, and there'll be a few others, but I don't think there'll be a good play there. Some of them, the options aren't there as well, so a look out for them. But I don't think we'll see too many large moves. Possibly on Levi's, but even that one I doubt it. I think it'll be a smaller move, more likely to the upside. So we'll watch for that. But I'll just briefly pass it on to DJ to share his thoughts and go over his usual SPY analysis.
Yeah, sounds good. So, gonna be a little bit of a quicker recap this week. Not too much really happened. As we kind of alluded to a couple weeks ago, we were just looking for a temporary top on the markets overall, and once we get that, we're looking for a brief pullback and then kind of see where the markets want to go from there, whether it's continuing the down or moving back up into the trend. So we started the week off pretty strong, which was a sell signal to start off the week. And then once we topped temporarily around this 462 area on SPY, we began to pull back in the latter half. And now you can see that we pulled back to as low as 449 for now. There is a chance that maybe this is the short-term bottom, but I think it's more likely we'll pull back a little bit more, somewhere around the 440 or the 445 level, to say the least, I think. Um, don't really want to look too much on the daily chart day to day. I think the weekly is more relevant here. So once again, this bi-weekly, very strong 2.5, 3 weeks, almost pretty much a, 40-point move in the span of 2.5 weeks, which is massive. So we do see this upper wick and, temporary top at 462. What I anticipate is that We will likely make a lower high next week, so somewhere below 462. Likely, my guess is somewhere around 455 to 458. That might be as high as we get before we kind of pull to most likely retest this weekly EMA at the 445. That would be, the first kind of area to kind of pull back with some sort of support, and then, we could ultimately pull back to around this 440 level on the weekly. Or even if we're pulling back somewhere, let's say like 435, this is still, just a higher low pullback. So there is quite a lot of room, um, kind of pull back on the downside. And we're also starting in April, which is a new month. And so we need to really look at the monthly chart for SPY on April. So, seeing this candle in March is actually a, pretty strong candle where we made a higher low and bounced back to the monthly EMA. The monthly EMA is now trading at, 444 roughly in April. So I do think, even if SPY were to continue bullish, we should see a pullback, like I said, around this 435 to 440 range, I think, on the monthly. Perhaps making another one of these, monthly low wicks before continuing higher and possibly, coming close to, 470 or, all-time highs later this month. Um, my bullish bias for the meantime is that I think once we finish the pullback, we'll see if we can make higher lows and higher highs. If we can, because April is strong seasonality, I do anticipate that, once we see the low of the pullback, we could see a move to close out the month strong and perhaps get to around this 470 to 475 range for April, in which it basically sets up May, to have quite a bullish month to test the new all-time highs on the S&P, in my opinion. Um, so there is, in the short term, I think, more downside, and in the medium term, I think it's more likely we'll get upside, but we'll have to see from there. There is a scenario where we also just kind of, straight dump back down in April, and then we're looking at, possibly heading to 380 into the, April and May sessions. But having gotten rid of the kind of FOMC meeting and all the inflation and rate hikes that everyone were anticipating, I do believe the negative sentiment and reaction to the Ukraine war has died down since then. So that kind of leads me to more bias towards the bullish projection. But those are ultimately kind of the two scenarios I think that could occur here. Qqq daily chart, pretty much the exact same thing as SPY, to be honest. Just kind of an uptrend and looking for consolidation at the moment. Weekly chart QQQ, same thing really, just a weekly upper wick, and now we need to find a higher low on some support, consolidate a week or two before we can ultimately determine if we move higher or lower from there. IWM, small caps, daily chart is a little bit stronger because it did actually close green, quite green on Friday, closing up about 1%, and closing above the daily EMA. So that is actually a little bit stronger than what, QQQ and SPY did, as it's pretty much had a red day and closed, near the EMA. 1% is a solid move on small caps. So it does look like small caps are, they broke out of this major resistance at 209, which was a triple top that we broke earlier this week and consolidated, and we are kind of maintaining this uptrend. So it does look like IWM and small caps are continuing to pick up the pace. Weekly, we have a kind of double bottom at 203. This level may or may not hold. Resistance at 212, heading into next week. And what's interesting is it's that even though the market kind of pulled back, decently this week, IWM held up pretty well. So, there's a possibility that small caps could actually, be leading the move on this move up. So wanted to see from there. But overall, it does look like the chart is starting to turn around here as, we've seen levels on IWM and the indices that we haven't seen since back in January. So chart wise, it's a pretty good move. Monthly chart on IWM, we've had higher lows and green closes starting the month of April. I think we could see maybe a pullback to the low 200s again, but April to me is looking like IWM can, have a solid green month somewhere around the 216 to 220 area, which is why, I've still been holding and adding positions in IWM. December calls mostly now because I just want adequate amount of time, and I think they're relatively cheap. I think June and September are fine as well, but they do kind of bleed more on the premiums. And we are only now like 2 months away from June, so those options are getting relatively closer to expiring. And then a kind of a new play that I added latter this week was Walmart kind of leaps. Walmart September calls. You can see, very strong, week to Walmart, and actually, we're just about 1% away from the all-time highs on Walmart. So I do think, we could see further upside once we break that. Reason why in those, I mean, calls are cheap because the stock rarely moves too much. But Walmart's breaking out. Similarly to Costco, near all-time highs, because the inflation problem um, is still real in the U.S. economy, and during times of high inflation and recession, consumers will kind of spend more at these lower cost retail stores such as Walmart and Costco. So the stock has been performing well, and I think it's kind of a good play to have as it kind of will go up during this kind of headwind of high inflation regardless. So it's kind of a good market hedge to have. Um, but yeah, overall, that's honestly about it on my end for this week. There wasn't too much. I think going forward, uh, the game plan is mostly established. Just going to focus on the markets, weekly charts, and etc. If there's any day trades, we'll alert the day trades and short-term events. This is also kind of the end of the earnings season, and the new earnings season basically will start in about 3 weeks when all the large cap tech start reporting again. So until we get there, there isn't really too much, you know, events going forward in the near term. So we'll just keep an eye on the markets and kind of reevaluate once we get there. So yeah, that's pretty much just my thoughts on the action this week. So I'll pass it over to Ramji for him to share his.
Just wanted to briefly mention, again, more of a longer play, but TLT, we did get a bit of an upside move here. So back in the 132s, 133s, and TLT again, as I mentioned last week, it will begin to, because it's long bonds, it will begin to price in recession well before we really do, enter a recessionary period. I've also looked through, a lot of the trends and past charts of, past recessions we've had, and it almost always, results in pretty much a blow off top. So I think overall, in the kind of more medium term, I would expect us to kind of, rally to a blow off top. But in the short term, I do think we have a very short term, maybe about a week or so, a week or two. We do have some more downside to come, and then in my opinion, I think we could sort of rally from there into a sort of blow off top. But I think a actual recession will only come, as I've been mentioning, in the maybe second half of this year. So yeah, the sort of game plan sort of remains the same. But yeah, just wanted to kind of touch on this. So DJ mentioned, SPY again. We had that pullback as predicted. So after quite a rally, and same thing with some large caps. Tesla, just a major rally. I think up about 40%, almost 50%. Kind of slowed down a bit, but still good. And then to touch on the delivery numbers, which I mentioned before, Tesla reported their end of quarter deliveries and really major numbers, especially given that they were pretty constrained with regards to supply chain parts, chips, all of that, and very constrained really for the first time because, again, for the past 2 years, pretty much since the pandemic, Tesla's really prepared itself for this issue where they, Elon and executives at Tesla have mentioned that they kept quite a stockpile of chips and all of that, and made major deals with chip manufacturers to essentially make sure that they are not subject to any supply chain constraints like other companies around the US and around the world. But um, since then, it's kind of ran out, and they are kind of subject to those chip shortages and whatnot, and especially in China as well, Tesla China. So, um, yeah, but despite all that, they went ahead and were able to produce that 310 number, which is really major. So for one quarter, so I mean, this isn't really their best quarter even historically, in the Q1 region. So pretty major numbers, and I think it looks really good. Also, you have to think about Giga Berlin is coming online, and they're going to be, entering ramp production. So you add those numbers onto this number, for Q2 and so on, and it's just pretty crazy. And then also later this month we have Giga Texas, which is pretty much the biggest gigafactory that's going to come online as well, and they're going to focus on Model Ys initially as well. Same with Giga Berlin. So they'll be ramping there, and that's Tesla's new headquarters too. So I think it'll be pretty hands-on with regards to executive management, managing everything and making sure everything's ramping and moving smoothly. So yeah, I mean the numbers I think are really major, especially when you factor in Giga Texas and Giga Berlin coming online. I mean, it's just kind of crazy, right? So um yeah, it looks really good there. I think we could see quite an upside move on Tesla on Monday, but we'll see how Wall Street reacts to it. We do also have earnings coming up April 20th, so coming up pretty soon. I think earnings will be really good. We will have some of the insights on expenditures on Giga Berlin and Giga Texas, but I think it'll look really good, especially with these delivery numbers. So looks really good overall. Tesla, I think, can get some upside. Also, what I wanted to touch on as well is some of these stock splits. So I mentioned it before, and even maybe a few months ago, some members asking me the possibility of another Tesla stock split, and I mentioned that. Not just for Tesla, but for any company. And then I was mentioning, Amazon back then, a few months ago, where I mentioned that it would be wise of them to initiate a stock split because it consolidates the price of the security, and again heading into some downturn that is going to protect the stock overall. So I think it's what not a lot of people talk about, uh, at least that I've seen, is that I think that a lot of these large cap or mega cap companies, over $1 trillion valuation like Google, Amazon, Tesla, I think them all initiating stock splits at this time, especially Amazon, which has never had a stock split for I don't know how long, and Google, same thing. Um, Especially these companies, I think it's a good kind of confirmation of a soon future recession coming, and some of these executives and these finance executives on these boards at Amazon, Google, Tesla, realizing that there is a recession coming, or some economic downturn, and some kind of economic factors and events that can trigger downside in the equity markets. So I think it's a pretty confirming event that these are all occurring, because when you're initiating the stock split, again, it is really consolidating the stock price, and uh, it further limits it from major downside, and then if you are kind of at a higher stock price. Also, that it provides quite a bit of a momentum, so it kind of adds some padding. Let's say if Amazon were to drop, in some major crash, 50% or 60% or something. If they were to initiate a stock split, if you look at Amazon, it's been pretty much flat for the past, I don't know, 2 years almost, right? And if they were to initiate a stock split, I think that Amazon, Google, Tesla, best bets for the equity markets if you're holding long right now, and I think they're good long holds to continue holding. I think with the stock split, let's say Amazon splits a stock. I forgot what the stock split was. I think it's 20-for-1, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I wrote it down, but whatever it is, let's say we increase 30, 20, 30, 40% on a stock split once the stocks actually splits, and begins trading split adjusted, you're really padding yourself, that 20-30% from the downside, right? So that's one thing, and then again, it's also consolidating the stock price, so um you're pretty much less affected over there. So for both of those reasons, I think it's pretty significant that we see all of these large caps splitting their stock. Even you can mention GME, because the reason GME is splitting its stock really is the same reason. It's to consolidate the stock price, not necessarily because there's an economic downturn in GME's perspective, but for GME solely, I think it's because their stock is way overvalued, right? So the board just kind of thinks, this is a cheat code. They can consolidate the stock price, and keep it where it's at, given that it's so overvalued because of the Wall Street bets run, and that entire stick it to the suits, so to say, saga that we had. We still have that majorly overpriced GME and GameStop, and with that, it's really the same essence of why they're doing it, only that they're really doing it because of just their own stock, because they're looking to consolidate it. So it's the same thing, but it's really significant that all these large caps are initiating the stock split at once. Again, I think it's because they do anticipate some economic downturn, likely a recession, and it's just another confirmation factor to the um, prediction that I have, that we do enter a recession, which looks pretty imminent, and these large cap companies are pretty much trying to consolidate their stock as it's reached these high prices and higher valuations. So Tesla, Amazon, Google, all looking to do the same thing. So yeah, just wanted to mention that because I think it's pretty significant. And again, it confirms the overall thesis of recessionary period entering shortly. So yeah, but yeah, other than that, not too much to go over this week. Wasn't too significant of a week. Final week of March. final week of the quarter, we did see that quarter end rebalancing, as I mentioned on that Friday, where we saw a pretty significant downwards move, and then on Thursday and Friday. And we kind of consolidated a bit on Friday, but Thursday we had the downside move. I think again quarter end rebalancing, as I mentioned. So now we're entering April. As DJ mentioned, seasonality looks good. So we'll see where it goes. Consistently kind of monitoring the markets and adjusting positions. So we'll definitely update you guys with regards to that. I'll upload this weekly live session on our YouTube for anyone who missed it. And yeah, that's about it. Again, with regards to earnings, not too many earnings this week. We're exiting earnings season. We'll come back pretty much into earnings season at the end of April, with some of the large caps like Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon, etc., reporting that time. So yeah, not too much earnings this week, but we do have Levi's, which will be on watch. I think Levi's earnings will likely be good. It's been good for the past few quarters as well, so a good performer. But yeah, that's about it for this week. So I hope everyone has a great remainder of the weekend, and we'll be back on Monday to go get this money, guys. So I hope everyone has a great weekend again, and take care.
Yeah, take care, everyone.